inside the famous Noman store here at the Noman School of Visual Effects. You know me, Louis Tucci here live. I've got, again, I might be the most blessed man in the entire business because I get to sit with everyone and just talk casually without any of the noise or any of this stuff. Chris Tran, I'm so glad you could be here today.
Thank you. Yeah, my pleasure.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. From Laika, located just a little north, a little nicer. That's what they say where I come from, right?
It's nice. We like it there.
So
we like it there. We hate to brag, but
no,
we like it. It's comfortable.
It's quite hip, I hear, as well. Transitioning into a very hip place to live. Is that fair enough to say?
It's a balanced area to live, depending on, you know.
Very green, apparently.
Very green.
In many ways, I'm hearing as well.
And dark. It's getting dark down.
Rainy.
And rainy.
You have a winter?
Long winter.
Oh, God. Okay, well, we were talking off camera about me potentially going up for a visit, and now I'm second guessing. Well, maybe in the spring.
Maybe the next couple of weeks it should be fine, but
That'd be
after
a good
that,
idea.
I wouldn't do it, yeah.
I want to talk a bit about, you had a wonderful presentation. I'd like to actually commend you. It was a very entertaining and engaging presentation. This is a child, obviously, of the 80s. You featured some of the world's most favorite brands. You had two figures, which I actually still have in my own collection, of course.
As
G.I. Joe, and then you jumped right in with the Transformers and went on with the He-Man. I remember gifting Skeletor to Solomon Blair, who was back behind the camera somewhere. He's got that behind his desk at
nice.
in the office.
Very generous.
On my way out, as I was finishing up my time with Pixelogic, as many know that I'm no longer there, but still there from afar. I said, "Here, you keep this," and I gave Merman to Kyle. So they both have two vintage figures that I don't usually give away vintage action figures. Paul knows this. So you studied accounting in school.
Yes, I did.
And that makes two of us.
Yeah.
Most people
and here we are.
And here we are. Yeah, most people don't know that. They're there. Now the world knows.
Yes.
So can we get a sinister laugh?
Oh, yeah. You know.
How did that happen?
Well, I mean, what's the typical scenario is
Brother B, right?
I wouldn't blame him, but no, it's one of those where you finish college and you're expected to decide your career path. As soon as you finish high school.
At a tender age, by the way.
Yeah, and I mean, some people have more direction than others, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I was good at math. Yeah. And I was like, oh, it's respectable to play with other people's money, so accounting made sense.
You know what they call that where I come from, my neighborhood?
What's that?
As a local bookie. Right?
Nice.
It's a true story.
Nice. But yeah, so I did accounting. Yeah, did accounting for about 2 years, and I realized that wasn't really for me. And this is back in Texas. It was, I can almost remember the day. It was a hot summer, afternoon class. I'm showing up in accounting class. I have my shorts, my flip-flop, my tank top, my hat's probably pulled backwards. I sit down and I look to the two gentlemen next to me. One has slacks, has a buttoned shirt.
Oh, God.
I look to the guy to my right. He's got slacks, dress shoes, and he has a tie. And that's when I realized these are not my people. Yeah. That's not my tribe, right?
Yeah. Hey, nice, well put.
So made some, did some deep thinking, deep thoughts, and then I realized, this wasn't for me. And I was always interested in art, and so I took one art appreciation class at the end of my sophomore year, and that did it right there. That was it. I was done with finance. My life was in art somewhere.
So this wasn't something that you had conspired from very young. We talk with a lot of people. I talk with a lot of people here in the hot seat about very early sort of awakenings. But for you, this came on as something that you just realized, I'm not in the right place.
Yeah, I was never serious about it. Yeah, it was always more casual. Like I would sketch, I would draw, and play with clay. Yeah, it was just fun. It felt natural. It wasn't work. It wasn't like a discipline per se. It was just something I just did naturally. Okay. And I didn't think that was something I can do as a profession.
An extension of childhood, so to speak.
Yeah, it's just play.
You had that wonderful sort of preamble leading into your presentation about having those action figures and them framing the narratives that sort of set the foundations for your own sort of exploration of self and the world around you. And I think there's something to be said about that. From a literary standpoint, I think that the way that things have gone, if we think about this today, and contextualize this, a lot of children today, because I've observed many children at this point, it's sort of a pastime of mine, the engagement with technology, and I'm going to come full circle with a huge thought here. You can see this
I'm hanging in there.
engagement with technology has actually removed them from a tacit experience of learning about self and the space around them. You were talking about sort of, paper towel rolls and toilet paper rolls being used to facilitate worlds. And how could that possibly be the case for today's youth where they have tablets in their hands?
I think they just need to find balance,
Yeah.
or they should be encouraged to find balance.
Right.
Right. Have take breaks, do some more exploration, and a lot of times just be left alone. Because I think, especially as little kids, you let them do whatever they want.
Right.
They'll be clever. They'll be imaginative. They'll figure out a way.
Yeah, the story will come forward.
Yeah.
I think that's been the benefit of watching the films over the last decade. I'd like to note as well that Laika is celebrating 10 years.
Yes,
This
very
is
exciting.
very
very
exciting.
proud.
Can we get a golf clap, perhaps? A little golf. Behind the camera, people are pounding on the keyboards.
Yes.
A little golf clap for everybody up north. Big fan, by the way. I have no qualms with saying that openly on the record and off the record. I'm a huge fan of all of the work.
I think we're very lucky. Our fans are just the greatest, really. I mean, we do have a smaller, niche market than your other bigger studios, but I think our fans are just some of the most, enthusiastic, fans that you can have, and their support's really, really, encouraging.
I want to get deeper with that. There's a quirk factor to your films that I think goes beyond just the mere fact that they're stop motion. I think it has to do with the great storytelling. Tell us about the story development and how that gets sort of pushed forward into how does the team decide what will be made into a film? We didn't get into that at all.
I don't know if I know all the details. I just know that.
You can talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. I just know that I'm just surrounded by a lot of talented people.
Right.
They're talented, they're hardworking, and they're dedicated. They're there because they want to be there, and they're there, and they're going to just push themselves to the max, basically, regardless if it's a writer, a director, a painter, even a carpenter. We have a range of tradesmen there, and everybody's just pushing themselves to make the best product they can,
Right.
regardless if it's writing or building a simple prop. We're just aspiring to do more and be more, because it is like we are different. We feel that we're different, and we're motivated to just push forward and do what most people wouldn't consider.
Right.
And there's a danger and a fear factor there, but I think that's when you might be on the right path.
Yeah, I would agree with you. That
Yeah.
sort of flutter in the belly.
Yeah.
We come back to Andrew Karst, who started us off for all these interviews this week, and he said that there was a sort of that feeling of uncertainty has to be there. Otherwise, you may be going into some place where you shouldn't be.
Yeah, if
little bit of
you're
fear
too
is good
safe,
for you.
right? You're
Yeah.
too safe, then you're not really pushing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
Yeah.
that's a perfect segue into something that you as a team have been doing I've written about your outputs in my time with Pixelogic. We're talking about an unprecedented amount of 3D prints
Yes.
and rapid prototyping, the transition. I want to, before we get crazy about this, talk about, you guys have done Coraline, Paranorman, Box Trolls, and Akubo, and the Two Strings. Describe the transition toward using more and more technologically advanced tools. I mean, it should be noted that Box Trolls had an unprecedented amount. This is featured in FX Guide magazine. Unprecedented amount
kidding.
of rapid prototyping 3D printed facial expressions.
Mhm.
Tell us about how that's been going. How did that start to happen?
I think it's one of those that as we grow, our movie and our ambition and our drive, grows along with that, and we just want to make bigger, better movies. Really, it's just pushing the storytelling medium, and we'll just do what we have to do to get the best story, tell the best story.
Right.
And to do that, we're going to utilize whatever tools are available. It could be traditional practices. It could be the latest, cutting edge technology. Whatever that will get the job done in the most efficient manner possible.
Right. I think that the fusion of those two things has been nothing short of stupendous. I commend you yet again. The quality and the sort of fit and finish of things continues to blow my mind personally. I know the audience behind the camera feels the same way around the world.
It's a fine balance, I think. It's one of those where we can't be dictated by technology.
Right.
It's more of a tool. And so at Laika, we are trying to find that balance to use it as a tool instead of the tool kind of just, driving us.
I think that's a good point. Yeah,
So,
you've actually done a great job of managing that in such a way that you showed some examples in there where the line was very much blurred between what was practical and what was digital. And I think that is really, from a filmmaking standpoint, if people are watching at home, it's not just simply in the area of stop motion that people can utilize that kind of approach, but also in traditional filmmaking.
Definitely.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, right now, I mean, we're incorporating, pretty much everything that's out there in terms of, movie making techniques, right? I mean, what we're doing is just we're making a miniature live action. So if you can imagine a regular, movie with sets and cameras and people, we have all of that, right? They're just smaller. They're puppets that have to be built by hand. They have, we're using the same cameras, the same lighting techniques. A lot of our artists come from, the live action industry. And so for the VFX department, we're basically doing the same, work that we would if it was a live action, blockbuster.
So it's to you, it's just a sort of very sort of similar experience.
It's very similar. It's just, our output is slightly different.
Yeah.
It's more
Just
stylized.
the quirk factor for me is I can't say it enough. I'm such a huge fan of the way that it just comes together, and the tonality of the films is always something to be held in the highest regard.
It's
a tone.
It's a big push for that. The artistic integrity is always there, and we protect that as much as possible, because a lot of times the process, the technology can distort your vision, distort the aesthetics, or distort the story. So it's very important to stay focused on what you're going after, what message you're going after, or what visual language you're trying to illustrate.
There is definitely a signature tonality to that, though, in your films. There's no mistaking that it's a Laika film when you see the trailer.
Yeah, it's very distinct, and that's very deliberate. Every movie should be its own separate entity. Right. You shouldn't be able to put a character from one movie in another movie. It should be out of place, and I think it is. And
I think you've done a masterful job of that. But I mean, in extending that, I say that each one is absolutely different, but at the same time, there is that underlying sort of understanding that that when you see that trailer, that it is coming from your team. So there is a very big distinction between each project, but there is still that fabric of the company that is very relevant, and sort of the ether of the spirit of the company is always there. It's really hard to put into words, actually.
Yeah, I think it comes back down to just being really deeply rooted in tradition. Stop motion is pretty old. It's been around for a very long time, and we're still hanging on to that, but we're also open to, obviously, computers, scanning, printing, laser cutting, all of that. We're not limiting ourselves.
But you'll pull in a smoke machine whenever you can.
Oh, heck yeah.
It's my favorite thing. I'll tell you off-camera
It's fun.
story about a smoke machine.
Yeah, and I think most people, in these traditional professions, they just enjoy it. There's a lot of gratification in doing something where you can actually touch it, see it, feel it, and so forth, instead of seeing it on the screen.
Yeah, that tacit experience with the puppet, the tacit experience of actually having to force them. You said 6 seconds. What does it mean?
It's like 4 to 6 seconds
4 to 6
a week.
seconds a week, man. I mean,
And that's a good week.
That's
a good week.
That's a rock star making 6 seconds of animation.
And speaking of rock stars, Travis Knight, president, CEO.
Right? Yeah, that I'm not getting into. I mean, that's heavy business.
And I don't know if this is common knowledge for our audience, but Travis Knight is a rock star in the animation world.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's amazing. He wears all those hats, and he does it superbly.
And he's a commensurate business person. I have a story about that. Probably think I'm a creep at this point. I was sitting in a restaurant at Comic-Con, and I just had the sort of distinction of being seated very close to him, and I thought, this guy is just a regular guy after all. He carried himself with such a wonderful sort of persona, a very friendly and approachable man, and was having a business meeting with someone about something, and I just sort of tuned out to what they were talking about, but I watched him, sort of the experience. I thought, that's a real nice guy. He just could have been anybody.
No.
This is really something to be said about that. So.
Yeah, he's definitely a distinguished gentleman. He's
But the kind of guy you might be able to have a beer with.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so as well.
I think so. There's a lot of good people.
Come up in that part of the woods next time.
Trying to get a free drink out of this.
I'm sneaking in. I'll bring the drinks myself.
There you go.
No, they want me to be a little louder.
Okay, sorry.
So
all right.
let's reframe.
We'll project.
Let's reframe the question.
Okay.
Okay, everybody can hear me now. Let's talk about the transition, right?
Yes, the
and
transition.
how you made that dream a reality.
Well.
Right?
Sorry, it's a mess now.
Okay, talking about the night.
But I think, I'm referring to just everybody, not just an artist. But I think at some point in your life, you really need to ask the question of who you are and what you want to do with your life, right? Like for me, in terms of pursuing an accounting degree, I can do accounting.
Sure.
That could be my life. That could be my occupation, and I could be financially stable with that. But would I feel satisfied?
Yeah.
No.
Not for nothing, but
No.
your presentation, you had two roles, right?
Yeah.
Hey.
And not to say that there's anything wrong with accounting, it wasn't for me. And I think if we really just sit down by ourselves and ask yourself, these simple questions like, what do I enjoy? What do I want to do? And you're disregarding the time, the effort, the money, all of that. Just a very simple question. It's like, what do you want to do?
Right.
And what brings you joy? And if you can answer that without thinking, I think it should just come to you.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's your path. You may not know where it will lead or how to stay on the path or even get onto that path, but you just need to follow that and know and trust that at some point you'll figure it out and you will get there eventually.
Just keep moving forward. Wise words. So
So-
tell us about some hurdles or some, sort of setbacks. How do you overcome those things, or how have you overcome those things? How have you overcome those things?
Well, I think you have to just be stubborn,
Tenacious.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you just gotta just.
Get a
Yeah,
sound effect.
I
out of
can't.
you?
Yeah, I know. I'm just grunting now. It's just. I
What all
can't-
sounds are being heard inside the Norman store here?
You gotta be persistent. You just don't give up. I mean, you gotta know what you want and be willing to make the sacrifices. And there are sacrifices.
Absolutely.
It's time, it's money, it's actual, sweat. It's you're giving up something for something else later on, and it's a question of like, are you willing to make that investment?
Well, it seems
So-
that you've made that investment and it's been paying off. You're involved in the sort of very traditional aspects of it, and now
Yeah.
you've transitioned into the digital. Right, it's some time now that you've been involved in the digital
Yeah,
side of things.
I think I want to go back now though.
Back
A balance. I think I think it's about the balance. I think to be a great digital artist, you should also be a very good traditional artist.
I would agree with
Right,
you.
and
yeah.
having that balance will definitely up your game for sure. Whereas if you were just focused in one particular area, you are limiting yourself.
I think that I think of it in the same regard. I tell my students, I say, just don't mute yourself. Why would you cut off something that is
Yeah.
potentially an opportunity to feel or see or grab onto some other inspiration where it's coming from?
Exactly. Similar to just what we do at Laika, we're doing stop motion, but if we were to keep with the traditional method of making, faces by hand, there's no way we would have lasted 10 years.
No, I can.
We'll be lucky we made 1 or 2 movies, right? But by embracing technology, utilizing it to its best capabilities, and pushing even further, while still on track with the mission, why not?
At the end of the day, I think you've hit something very important on the head. Is what it is that the stories are incredible. The stories are award-winning on their own. They could each be children's books or young adult books, or just books for
Definitely.
anyone in general. I think they could all stand alone in some way, shape, or form. I think that would be really an interesting project to have them collected in that regard. And at the same time, I think that based on the fact that they are such strong stories, the way that they're presented becomes sort of secondary, and the fact that it's presented in the highest of ways, or at the high point of both technologies, right? One being very antiquated and then utilizing those things makes them as award-winning as they have been over the last 10 years. And I think that's a good place for us to sort of say goodbye in a way, because I think that here's to the next 10 years.
Yes.
I think that's fair enough.
20.
Yeah, I'll see you for the 2-0 festival. You're going to be with
That'd
us
be
tonight.
awesome.
You're going to be here for the festivities.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
It's going to be great.
I have to say, on behalf of myself, Louis Tucci, and everybody else at the Pixelogic team and inside the Pixelogic family, Chris Tran has been a wonderful guy for sitting with me and answering these questions today. Everyone across the industry is indebted to you guys for keeping the tradition of stop motion alive in the way you have. The team at Laika, we're, like I said, big fans. We oftentimes poke around on there and see what you're up to. And just really want to extend a thank you again, and sprinkle that magic fairy dust on the next project. And,
Definitely. If you swing by, we'll give you a tour.
I appreciate that. Okay.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thanks so much. On behalf of myself, Louis Tucci, and everybody here inside the ZBrush Summit, Want to bring the action back to you over in the main screen room. Paul Gabry, ladies and gentlemen, the rest of the Wild Bunch. Thanks again. See you in a while.
See ya.
Okay, thanks again.